I'm a firm believer in, I guess you could call it being optimistically positive, being
Yeah.
real and understanding the world is a tough place. There's no doubt about that. But I think finding those joy, finding those moments of happiness, I guess, is something I've always, or I shouldn't say always, have definitely in the last 4 or 5 years really strived to see every day. Not every day is going to be great, but there are going to be great
Right.
days and there's great parts about every day.
Right. And if you think about, the span of your day and maybe had one tough conversation, if you did the math, what percentage of your day would that tough conversation have been? And yet you ruminate over that conversation over and over and over again, making yourself increasingly miserable. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. We could focus on the 99% of your day where it was great and within your control. And again, both are true, but which one gets your attention?
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Coleen Greco. How are you doing today, Coleen?
I am doing so well. Thank you. How are you doing?
I can't complain. It's the start of 2024, and I'm just excited to see what this year has in store for us.
Oh, me too. I just feel like this energy out there is so good right now. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like everything's just kind of catapulting towards us. And I don't really follow that whole like lunar cycle phenomenon, although I do want to know a little bit more about it. But I'm told that that's what it's all about. It's the energy is attracting things towards us. So let's do it.
I love it. I love it. So, I always like to start off and talk about the importance of networking. How are we connecting? How do we know each other?
Oh, I have to give a shameless plug to my guy, Marques Ogden. He is a phenomenal guy, and he has a great show and just an ultimate networker. And he introduced us.
I speak nothing but high words of Marcus. It's the Get Authentic with Marcus Ogden show. Make sure you go check it out. I was fortunate enough to be a guest, and I believe, were you a guest as well?
I was, yes. And now, believe it or not, he is a top 0.5% podcast. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet. After you listen to this segment.
Of course, we'll make sure we'll link our episodes in the show notes so people really can, check out even more about us and, just all the amazing work Marcus does. Like I said, it's so great to network with people, especially when someone like Marcus kind of gives that badge of approval, confirmation that, we'd be a good fit. He's not going to introduce you to me if he didn't think we'd be a good fit. It's great to have those kind of people in your corner.
Yeah, he really is. He's a great judge of character. That endorsement is, it's everything. And I think that's how business should work, where it's like great people connect with other great people to do great things. It's all like that great energy.
Kelly, and I couldn't agree more. So let's jump in a little bit more about your story. Who are you? Where are you from? That comic book issue number one.
Well, it all started. No, I'm kidding. So my name's Coleen Greco. I'm a joyologist, and I, you haven't heard of that term before, I assume. And so what that means is I help people who feel stuck, who are unsure of their potential, who maybe don't feel comfortable in their own skin, to reclaim the joy that is missing in their life through a combination of mindset coaching and nutrition coaching. And so it's really all about, developing that firm foundation of self-love and being able to realize their true potential, kind of see themselves the way that everybody else sees them.
What got you into that field of work?
Okay, so this is not a natural segue type of career move. I'll just preface it with that. I was 26 years in IT marketing leadership, and we had a trauma that occurred here in the house. And as many traumas do, your world comes crashing down. And we didn't have any doctors or therapists that were willing to help us. Um, the topic was really heavy, and so that just meant that we had to rebuild ourselves. And I took it upon myself to kind of take the lead there. In the early days, I did not handle the trauma well at all. I ate and drank my way up to weights that I hadn't seen since my pregnancy. and felt that if I was gonna be a good role model for my family, I'm married and have 2 children, they're both boys, um, I felt like I had to take care of myself and show them that by loving myself and prioritizing myself, they would get a better product, and they would in turn, benefit and do the same. And so that's what happened when I started to take care of myself. I hired a nutrition coach. I, overall lost 52 pounds, but by the time I had lost about 35, I had said to my coach, like, "Now is the time when we need to be developing strategies to help me keep this weight off, and I think you should know more about what caused the weight gain." And he said, "I'm not your therapist," which was pretty shocking. And so I said, "Well, you're not willing to help me, that gives me an idea." And I really firmly believe that that put me on my path to my calling, that, I want to enable and equip as many people as possible with the tools that I wasn't given so that they don't have to do it the hard way. They have the support of me and the strategies that I've developed, and here I am, 4.5 years later, I've kept the weight off and am now fully in my purpose.
I love that. What do you think is a misconception when they hear that you're a joyologist?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, I would say the misconception is that I live in this bubble of, like, constant positivity and that I'm maybe naive or, just shade myself from, you know, bad days and bad lines of thinking. That's not true at all. It's just a choice. I choose. Before we started, we were talking about the weather, and I said it was 19 degrees this morning. Now, when I'm out walking my dog in 19 degrees, I am freezing. Let's, like, not mix words. But I can choose to focus my energy on the fact that I'm freezing and I want them to hurry up so I can get back inside, or I can embrace, their silliness and curiosity and have fun with them while they're doing whatever it is they're doing, frolicking around being silly, right? Like, both scenarios are possible and both are true. It's just which one gets my attention. And so I'm choosing to be present with them and have fun with them. And then somewhere in the back of my mind saying, like, if we could just, like, have fun in a faster manner so I get back inside, that would be great.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that being a choice. Obviously, there's the good days, there's bad days. I'm a firm believer in, I guess you could call it being optimistically positive, being
Yeah,
real and understanding the world is a tough place. There's no doubt about that. But I think finding those joy, finding those moments of happiness, I guess, is something I've always, or I shouldn't say always, have definitely in the last 4 or 5 years really strived to see every day. Not every day is going to be great, but there are going to be great
right.
days and there's great parts about every day.
Right, and if you think about, the span of your day and maybe had one tough conversation, if you did the math, what percentage of your day would that tough conversation have been? And yet you ruminate over that conversation over and over and over again, making yourself increasingly miserable. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. We could focus on the 99% of your day where it was great and within your control. And again, both are true, but which one gets your attention? It's kind of like the glass half full being half full or half empty. Both are true.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, on everyone's path, everyone's journey, you make a decision, you go east, you go west, not really knowing the outcome. Can you
Yeah.
give you a time when that happened in your life and how it played out?
Oh, well, okay. So I guess when I quit my career, that was a biggie, right? I believe in my heart, in my soul, like my whole body is saying, go in this direction. But I didn't have the semblance of a plan necessarily. Um, I started this show. I thought that would be fun and a good idea, and, like, again, my body was like, "Yes, you should go do that," but I didn't nobody said, "Yes, if you do that, that will lead to these other things." I had no idea I'd meet someone like you or Marcus, right? That none of that was part of the plan, but yet all these conversations lead to better conversations, lead to business opportunities, lead to, like, me being further and further into my purpose. But at that moment when I left my company, that was one of the most that's the trauma, probably the most terrifying moments of my life, like, "Well, now what?" Like, I'm just I'm really gonna do this? Like, now? Okay, let's let's get to work, right? And, I don't know if that answers your question, but that was definitely a moment where I was like, I'm gonna follow my heart, follow my intuition, and put my belief behind that, because I know that this career is slowly killing me, and that doesn't feel very authentic to me, and I needed to be authentic to myself.
I think that's so important. You speak of the word authenticity, being authentic to yourself. And I know that feeling when you're in a career, you might be doing great in that career, but there's just something pulling at you in another direction. And I think the first time it happened, you're in whatever capacity that might be, it's a little terrifying. But I think for me at least, it became like the roller coaster right before that drop, and you can feel it in the pit of your stomach, but then you know you're going to be all right. And I think a lot of times with going into the unknown, going into that next chapter, I think a lot of it's practice of you going and stepping into the unknown every day. And I always say, I won't say I always say yes to every opportunity, but I at least say maybe. I rarely just say no,
Mhm.
because as you mentioned, you really never know what it could lead to.
I don't know if you've ever done human design. Are you familiar with that term? Okay.
No.
So human design is think of it almost like a personality test, kinda like a Myers-Briggs or anything like that, but more for, like it takes, I think, numerology and all the other things and does it based on, like, who you are as a human, based on when you were born, the time you were born, and it really helps you dig into why does Jeremy make the decisions he makes the way that he makes them? So instead of, one of the things that happens with me is I get this, like, heck yes or heck no when making a decision. It's just like this gut instinct. And it's not that I'm trying to, like, answer the question, be done with it. It's just my body, the way that my human design works, that's the way I know whether or not I should do something. And I'm not doing the best job explaining it, but I if you ever want a human design expert on, I'll get you one.
Yeah,
But
that seems fascinating.
yeah, because it's like, why do I always get this feeling, like, when I don't wanna do something, I'm sorta like, that I have to socialize it with, like, 15 people for them to tell me it's crazy, and then I eventually say no? But if I listen to the way that I respond, I'm saying no with this, like, little, uh, feeling, and it's my body saying, "No, that's not right for you." And anytime I haven't listened to that, it has completely blown up.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've always found things like personality tests and, as you mentioned, human design and all that fascinating. So, well, just a little bit about me. I was adopted, and so a lot of the, I guess you could say, more hereditary traits I'm not familiar with. I don't know. It is funny. There's a lot of the nature over nurture. There's very similarities I have to my parents who raised me, just kind of how we react to things, and like that. But I've always been curious about with the human design, if you will, on how much of that is hereditary. I find the entire area, I guess, of psychology, if you will, fascinating.
Oh, I'll show you I'll give you a link for where you can do it for free, and we could also put it in the show notes if you want, just to kinda give you a glimpse as to, like, how things work, and what I find fascinating too is, for example, if you put out something on social and you say, "For the next 10 people, I want you to click this link and you have 3 minutes to do it or then it's sold out." With your energy and your human design, that might actually work. For me, I will get nothing. All of my energy has to come from my network. I don't know why, it's just my human design, and so beating my head against a wall, doing those time-bound, like, scare tactic-y things never work, and it's also not my personality, but it's all about your human design, so if you actually dig into your human design more, the answer of how, your business might work is right in there. It's absolutely wild.
The more and more over the years I've got into the idea of entrepreneurship, I've always been a kid who I would sell anything, get some Pokemon cards, get some. It's funny because now I'm pretty much just a grown kid with a little bit more money. I've, sports cards, as you can see, my background, it's nothing but, memorabilia. But as I got more and more into the reality of entrepreneurship and creating a business, one of the things that helped me the most was just that idea of personal and professional development. It had nothing I had really heard of. It started with some listening to some motivational, music and videos and speeches, and then I started to realize, at least for me, again, everyone's different. But the more and more I read and learned about not just myself but how I operate, it just kind of helped me get to that next level each time where it's just one of those really exciting things about learning more about yourself.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I always say that the day I stop learning is the day I die. I'm just I'm a lifetime student and I just love it. And the more I can learn about myself and other people, I just feel like the better, you know, coaching experience I can provide and then just maybe make the world a little bit better than the way I found it.
Colleen, I couldn't agree more with that. I was fortunate. Have an education background, and one of the biggest things was learning about the variety of learners. That was a thing, and I now use that every day in my life, just how I interact with different people. I'm like, oh, this is the type of learner. I'm not going to tell you right now that you're this type of learner, but it's like just how I, better interact with everyone. And it's been real fascinating to kind of learn that about others as well. And again, just going back to the always trying to learn and always trying to grow is just something I admire.
Yeah, and if you approach it with like a childlike curiosity and compassion, what a different interaction that is than, man, this guy's driving me crazy and I don't know why. And it's like, no, this is how he communicates. And you might be driving him crazy for the record. But if you come at it with a different perspective, it's like you just want to know more and imagine what you could do together if you kind of like honed in on each other's strengths.
So, title of the podcast: Into the Unknown. What is your version of the unknown? What are you stepping into? What are you working on?
Oh, wow. I'm loving your line of questions, by the way. What is unknown? I mean, the future is unknown, and I actually love that. That used to terrify me, but now it excites me because I know that I'm going towards, like deeper into my purpose, right? So I'm doing a lot of mindset coaching, but I started off only doing nutrition coaching. And I think that is really important. But if you don't understand how the mind works and you don't make any adjustments to your mindset, that weight just comes back on. So it actually is the more important of the 2 to master. Once the mindset is mastered, the nutrition could maybe take care of itself, but it's changing lives. I just had a client, finish up when was it? Friday, I think, and in 6 months, she had, established a firm foundation of self-love, which is almost what everybody comes to me looking for, and that's great because that is really like, you can't build a house on a shaky, um, foundation, right? So we've gotta have that. Release the worry was another one of her goals. So she is like one of those chronic worriers that's like, "Well, what if this? What if that?" Like, "What if" was at the beginning of every single sentence. That's all gone. And the 3rd one was forget. Now I forget, but it was something major like that too. And in 6 months, she tackled all 3 of those goals. And I could not be more proud of that work because that's a different life for her now. She has so much free space in her head now to, welcome more abundance in. I'm like, I could die today and that would be fine. It changed her life, and I'm just so proud of that because I know what it's like to feel like you're suffering. I mean, I remember that day when I was laying on the, rug of my front hall there, like, right outside my door, which is where I'm pointing, um, and bawling my eyes out saying, "This is not my life." My whole world was in shambles. I didn't know who I was anymore, and I remember being like, I didn't sign up for this. And to look at where I am now is just like a completely different person. All my friends are different, like, all my experiences are different, my job is different, my relationships are different, it's amazing.
That's so exciting, and as you mentioned, I think going into the new year, the classic new year thing, but just I think that excitement of the unknown, whatever is next, and I can
Yeah.
feel that for you, it's continuing to build, and that's just a remarkable.
Yeah, just being like, "I'm here for it. Whatever it is, I'm ready for it, and I welcome it, and I will embrace it." I do think on that list, though, just to be clear, is there is a book somewhere on that list. I just don't know where.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if people want to learn more about you, what you do, where can they find you? Or do you have a website? Or you on social media?
Yes, so my Instagram is at the Colleen Greco, which is TheColeengreco. My website is colleengreco.com. I have a show as well. It's called Joy Unleashed. It's a TV show and a podcast if they want to hear more about that. And I would love the opportunity to talk with anybody that just, as I said before, feels stuck. They're not really sure what they need to do next. They just know this isn't right. That is the perfect type of person to work with because we can get into what that roadmap is really quickly and get them on a path to healing. And that's just so rewarding for me.
Colleen, I couldn't agree more. And I just tell people, when you're on that great side of your mind, it makes life so much easier. Just as you continue to develop your tools, and I think a lot of it's just rewiring yourself to, your old way of thinking to your new way of thinking. And you seem like a perfect person to help people do that. So, again, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. It was a really awesome conversation. And if I could just impart one more thing that I promised myself I would mention, I I had this epiphany a couple of months ago that literally the answer to everything is love. So anytime you're faced with some sort of like, I don't know, an altercation or you just feel a little challenged in something, think about how you can approach it with love instead of being angry or frustrated or whatever, fill in the blank, and see how quickly that thing resolves versus the way maybe you used to handle it. And I really want to challenge all your listeners to give that a shot because I'm telling you, I have done that with probably 50 different scenarios in the last few months, and it just makes everything so much easier. I really do believe it's the answer to everything.
Colleen, thank you so much for sharing that insight. And again, I really do appreciate it.
You're awesome, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.